You probably know people whose entire life revolves around food. Now, these people often refer to themselves as foodies. The conventional wisdom that these people are given to break their addictions is to moderate the amount of the stuff they're having. This doesn't seem to work for most people, and usually what happens is they end up gaining more and more weight. You see, these foods are quite literally designed by teams of scientists who make it as hard as they possibly can for people to moderate these things. I find it fascinating how a food addiction is the only addiction in the world where people are told to continue their habit. In today's video, I'm going to be breaking down the most effective way to get rid of your food addiction once and for all, and that is through the proper human diet, also known as the carnivore diet. On the agenda today, I'm going to first break down the two main factors that lead to food addiction, which are dopamine. I'm going to break down how it works and how it makes you addicted, and how by eating this processed food, you're actually making yourself hungrier, and therefore you can't stop eating. I'm also going to talk about why you shouldn't be including fruits and vegetables, and how they only contribute to this addiction. Finally, I'm going to break down exactly how the carnivore diet resolves both of these issues, and I'm going to give evidence that supports this. What causes people to become addicted to food? Well, there's two main factors at play. Human Psychology 101. Humans are wired to either avoid pain or seek pleasure. And to drastically oversimplify the function of dopamine, it is the hormone that makes us feel pleasure. These ultra processed foods that 90% of society is addicted to are designed by teams of scientists to give us an obscene amount of pleasure when we eat them. One of the ways they do this is they hit something known as the bliss point. Now, the bliss point is essentially the perfect ratio between salt, sugar, and fat. And when a food hits this bliss point, it provides us with so much dopamine. Remember, historically, if we ever came across lots of salt, lots of sugar, or lots of fat, it meant that, well, we wouldn't starve to death. So when you get the perfect ratio of all three of these things, the human brain is just overwhelmed with pleasure. And so this obscene amount of dopamine is for most people the highest dopamine activity they partake in. So like I said at the start, as humans we're always trying to seek pleasure or avoid pain. And because this gives us so much pleasure, our brain is always chasing this high. Dopamine works similar to alcohol in the sense that over time you build a tolerance to it. If your body has not been exposed to too much dopamine, you only need a very small amount to feel the high. However, if you're constantly overstimulating yourself, you need a lot of dopamine to feel pleasure. So because these foods just provide you with an obscene amount of dopamine, everything else you do in your life just seems mundane and boring. So all your brain can think about is this food. What is interesting to note, however, is that your brain can only remember how much dopamine it got for something from the last 2 weeks. So if you can stop eating processed food for 2 weeks, your brain can't remember how much pleasure it got from it, and it won't seek it anymore. The next factor as to why people are addicted to food is that they're always hungry. There is a theory known as the protein leverage hypothesis. It basically goes as follows. You will be hungry until you have eaten a sufficient amount of protein for your body to perform all of its necessary bodily functions. You see, protein is required for everything. Creating new cells, building muscles. You see, protein is an essential nutrient that humans need a lot of. Now, this is a very sound hypothesis, and in studies, every time people increase the amount of protein they have, the amount of fat they have decreases significantly. What a lot of people fail to consider regarding this hypothesis is that there may be a bit of correlation going on. When someone has a high protein meal, it typically comes from an animal product, and we know that animal products contain the highest amounts of bioavailable nutrients. Another key factor in hunger, as well as how much protein you've had, is how much of every other essential nutrient have you consumed. So when they conduct these studies to test the protein leverage hypothesis, what they seem to forget is that meat is also super high in every other nutrient. So yes, the protein is definitely playing a key role, as I just talked about, but all these other nutrients that are in meat are definitely playing a large role also. A lot of people think that to feel full, they need to eat a lot of total volume of food. However, I think nutrient density in food plays a much larger role. So what happens when we eat these processed foods? They literally have zero nutritional value, zero nutrients of any kind other than carbohydrates, which make you hungrier. You see, carbohydrates lead to weight gain through a number of mechanisms. The first being that it's going to spike your blood sugar. And when your blood sugar comes crashing back down, it doesn't stop at its baseline. It goes below its baseline. In this state, your body thinks it's dying and you become ravenously hungry. Also, as soon as your blood sugar spikes, another hormone known as insulin spikes. And as soon as your insulin levels are elevated, your body can't tap into its own body fat. So as soon as the energy you've consumed runs out, you can't tap into this fat, so you're just going to get super hungry. Now, like I said at the start, this is all done by design. These foods that are designed by scientists so you never get full eating it. So you eat more and more and you have to keep going back and buying more of the stuff and they end up making more money. When people are put on an ultra processed diet, what is observed is that a hormone known as ghrelin becomes monumentally elevated. And ghrelin is quite literally the hormone responsible for telling you, hey, we're hungry, we want to eat. As well as the fact that leptin, which is the hormone that tells you to stop eating, we don't need to eat anymore. In these same studies, they find that people's leptin levels are dropped drastically. So you have this hormone that's making you hungrier increased, and then you have this other hormone which stops you from overeating that's just completely tanked. It's a horrible combination for your satiation levels, but it's a great combination for the profits of these food companies. But Max, why on earth would I not include fruits and vegetables? Well, let's start with fruit. Fruit nowadays is not even real. Over time, all of these fruits have been crossbred, which basically means they get different plants and grow them together, which creates this hybrid style of plant that is just overly sweet. All the modern fruits we have nowadays are nothing like they used to be. And often people find that when they include fruit in their diet, it leads to them just craving other things, and as a result, they never get over their food addiction. You see, vegetables have many anti-nutrient properties in them, which basically means when you eat vegetables, it blocks your body from absorbing nutrients, which, as I discussed in the nutrient leverage hypothesis, this is not ideal. How will the carnivore diet solve your food addiction? Well, for starters, when you eat meat, it provides you with a good amount of dopamine, so you eat it and you enjoy it. But it's not ridiculously high where it's the only thing your brain can think about all day. It also solves the protein leverage or nutrient leverage equation like we talked about. Your body gets sufficient protein as well as the sufficient nutrients it needs, and so you're no longer hungry. And you're also not going to be consuming carbohydrates, which, like we talked about, when they're spiking your blood sugar up and down all day, all it's going to do is lead to you getting ravenously hungry. And as a result, you can just live your life like a normal human being is designed to. You can go out, hang out with your friends without having to think about food the entire time. For many people, this truly will be life changing. I know exactly what your next question is going to be, however. Won't I get sick of only eating meat? Luckily for you, at the end of this video, I'm going to link to a video which breaks down how to never get sick of meat and how you'll get to a point where the only food you actually want to eat is meat. Now, do I have any evidence to support what I'm saying? Well, to be completely honest with you, the evidence is very limited due to one factor. For a study to be conducted, someone needs to be making profit from it. If the entire world's eating plants, the food companies get rich. However, if everyone's eating meat, everyone's local farmer gets rich. So as a result, we have very few actual hard scientific studies on the carnivore diet. However, there was one study conducted by Harvard, and what they found in the study is that 91% of people had improved hunger/food cravings. Now, all you have to do is Google carnivore food addiction, and you will find hundreds of Reddit threads of people talking about how the carnivore diet has changed their life and that they're no longer addicted to food. In fact, if you're watching this video and the carnivore diet's done something like that to you, can you please comment it down below so other people that watch this video can see it and take inspiration from it? Anyways, that concludes today's video. If you want to work one-on-one with me to achieve your goals with the carnivore diet, click the top link in the description. If you enjoyed this video and you want to see more of my content, consider subscribing down below. It's completely free and means you'll see more videos like this. The video that's linked right here is the video I talked about earlier, which breaks down how to never get sick of eating meat on the carnivore diet. Thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you guys next time.